All right, all right, all right. You are back with your girl, Deborah Franklin. We are having conversations tonight with Miss Nicole Hampton on Life Enhancement Radio. We are so excited about what God is doing in our lives. We're so excited about what He's doing in your life. Know that God is getting ready to work it out and that He is a great God. You will be surprised at what's going to happen to you and what's going to be getting ready to come down the pike. And all you're going to be able to say is, but God, but God. Now we're getting ready to go back with our girl Nicole Hampton, and I have a question about the main character Shannon. Do you think she felt? I kind of touched on this a little earlier, but do you feel like she was out of the game, and that's why she started to make some bad decisions, especially Okay, she had an affair too. I gave it away, y'all. I gave it away. I'm sorry. I read the book. Forgive me. Do you think that's why she started to make the bad decisions because she was out of the game? Felt like she was out of the game?
I think she felt like she was out of the game. She felt like she was losing ground and unappreciated, and she, her and her husband had this wonderful, passionate marriage, and then life happened and it went by the wayside. And while she was in her mind thinking that she was all in and getting ready to fix it, she finds out that he had already gone out and looked for a remedy. So that shook her soul. And you touched upon a part in the book where she allows another man into her space. She does stop short of actually having a full-blown affair. I'll give that much.
Okay.
But but it's that internal struggle, and in there, Shannon is she's realizing what she's doing is not working. So she's succumbing to what she learned in church, and not just being faithful to her husband, but being faithful to God. Now, this isn't a Christian fiction book, but there are Christian undertones.
Oh no, I clearly knew that it wasn't Christian fiction. I'm not gonna give nothing else away. Yeah. But I appreciated it though. I appreciated that because I hate to say, I mean, as a church person, it's like it's okay to read some things, but I think when we start, it's like I got to see somebody be real. And that's what you want to see. Characters that are real, characters that are relatable, characters that make the church, they put the church in focus and put the church and give the church a real purpose. Because sometimes in the other types of books, we kind of gloss over church. We don't talk about the real feelings and what you really felt like when you went through this situation. So I did appreciate how you dealt with that in the book, and moving forward with that.
Right. And I'm a Christian, but this is what I know about being a Christian. When you decide to give your life to Christ, you don't forget about all your other experiences.
You better talk here.
And in order for you to be representative of Christ to other people, you have to still be able to relate to them. You have to be real about it. So people who my experience is that many people come to Christ, come to God when their lives are in shambles. And they don't know what else to do because they've tried everything else. But sometimes we still don't understand it. We still don't understand what that means. And it can either turn us away because it doesn't turn out the way we think, because we've had these Christians say, my life is so perfect.
And them the main ones lying. They saying it's perfect. I'm sorry. I'm finna go to church. I'm about to go to church on you because the preacher in me about to come out. It's like I get tired of people saying that, oh, my life is just perfect. I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, and I just don't have no problems. And I'm like, stop lying. Stop lying. Stop trying to sugarcoat stuff. Let these people know that just because true. They come up to the front and shake the right hand. Yes. And yes.
So when I wrote the book, knowing that I was a Christian, I didn't want to I wanted people to see that there is a way to get to God, and everybody has access. And it's not an overnight thing. So it's a step by step, and you still have to go through your stuff and before you even realize that you have to go to Him.
And you said something that almost made me run out of here and drop the mic, because you got to know that you got access. So many people don't even realize that they got access to God, that they feel like they got to be so perfect to get the access. What they don't know, if they just come as they are and do what they're supposed to do, then the access is granted. As soon as you say you believe, access is. You know what? Nuh-uh. Let me leave that alone, because that's not the show tonight. That's not the show tonight. Let me go to the next question.
But you're talking about being out the game.
Yes.
When you're out the game, you sometimes have to create a new game. And if you want things to work out, so to speak, you have to be willing to go where God is going to lead you.
Most definitely.
Even in this book, there are people who believe in God and their soul is anchored. And then there are people who you don't know what they feel. And then there's one particular person where you just feel like if she knew God, she'd be a partially decent person. Not even halfway decent, but partially decent.
Right.
So I think there's a little bit of everybody. Somebody will be able to find themselves in the book, and they'll be able to say, okay, when I wrote the book, I wanted people to connect to it, and I wanted them to be able to see themselves, and I wanted them to understand that when you're going through life and something terrible happens to you, such as infidelity, there's no right or wrong way. And you can take all the time you need to get to the point where you can deal with it, whether you walk away or whether you stay.
Exactly.
You need to be able to live with it. How many of us know women who leave right away and 20 years later, they still mad?
And still mad and still living in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
Yeah, and the man has gone on,
moved on,
been married 19 years,
and you still, and you still holding on to something that you should have let go of long time ago.
Yeah, and every man after that has, they're a terrible person. It's always the man's fault. But I think what I wanted for people to see in Shannon, I know what I wanted for people to see in Shannon, that this is a process.
Yes, come on, process.
Come on, process. Had her leave.
Right.
But she was still going to go through the same process.
Right.
It's that emotional journey to begin to, figure out that there's nothing wrong with you. It is not your fault. It's something that happened. The question is, how are you going to let it affect the rest of your life?
Most definitely.
What are you going to do to get your power back?
And you know what? And as women, and I hate to say it, it's like as women, we don't know how to let go. We don't know how to move on. And I know that we are built that way, but in this time, it's like now we got to start being able to lean and depend on God even more, especially when things come our way, because I know it's easy to fall back into bad situations when things start to go wrong, but we got to learn how to start being strong, standing on what we know to be right. And I wanted to ask you, has there ever been a time that you felt like you were out of the game? And if so, how did you come back into the game?
Oh, absolutely. We just met, and we before we came on the air, you said that you saw the pictures of my kids, my little baseball team.
Right.
So I have 6 children. I have been married for 16 years, and my husband and I have been together 21 years.
Wow! Congratulations.
And all of that, we've been married 16 of them. And in all of that time, we're 2 different people. We are 2 completely different personalities, and you probably picked that up when we were at the Black Authors and Readers Rock event. He's outgoing and talking, and he'll converse with anybody, and I'm standing there watching. And so, it's easy for me to fall into that role of, mother and working, and then not putting wife on the forefront. So I began to feel like not necessarily in my marriage, but I began to feel like I lost myself and what I'm supposed to do. We have 2 biological children, and then the other 4 are my sister's kids, and we're raising them, and they are our children. They've been with us for a long time, and as a caveat, they have a great relationship with their mom.
Awesome.
She needed our help, and we decided that we could do that, and God has made a way. But having to do that is a lot of work. So, yeah, I felt like I was out of the game. I felt like, I didn't have time for me. I didn't have time to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And then once I figured it out, I didn't have time to actually make a plan. And see, that's my problem. I was going to make a plan for my life. And, as I began to build my relationship with God, He began to put people in place to let me know things and to demonstrate things to me that I couldn't see. There is a minister at my church that comes to me and says, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, what am I doing? She's like, and she just said, God is seeing what you're doing. And we've had some really deep heart-to-heart conversations. And one of the things she says is, it's obvious that you are control freak. So why would God give you everything at once?
Exactly.
Where would He get the glory?
Yes.
Where would He get the glory if He gave it to you all at once?
When would you have your but God moment? When would you have your right? When would you have your but God?
My life in general and how it plays out. I'm a long-term thinker, what most people would call a visionary. So you tell me something today, I'm going to run it all the way out 10 years.
Right.
And see, I'm planning it out 10 years. And when I say I felt like I was out of the game is when I realized I couldn't figure out what was going to happen tomorrow.
Right. Most definitely. Most definitely.
and so for me, getting back in the game has had a lot to do with just trying to completely surrender my life to what His will is and not knowing what it is. Trying to figure out what that means in terms of being